What's up, folks, and welcome to another indie showcase. Welcome to the misery. Yes, indeed. This one's a little bit different than some of the things I've covered lately. But when this came across my radar, it really interested me because, well, as you'll see by the title here, this is a game about survival. But when most people think about survival these days, they think about sort of the open world type survival games. And this is definitely not that. So this is Ashwalkers, A Survival Journey. And the difference with this is that this is a game that is, it's somewhat linear. It's very, very narratively focused. And it's one of those games that I like to call, well, I don't like to call it, I didn't coin it this term, but the term is misery simulator. So you're often going to be faced with a lot of choices in this game, and there's often never a good choice to make. You're going to have to make what is basically the least bad choice. And the funny thing is, I can't play games like this very much, usually more than one or two runs, because they just kind of wear my spirit down. But at the same time, that's what I like about these, because so many games are just like, here's a choice, but this is the obviously good one, this is the obviously evil or bad one. You know, what do you want to do? I like games where the choices are not obvious and they really make you think, and you really have to dig deep into your own sense of morality to determine what you think is the better option. And that's what this is aiming to do, so that's why I found it very interesting. This comes to us from a new developer called Nameless 13, and it's published by Dear Villagers, who's been putting out some really cool stuff lately, so I was interested in that as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I've actually done one full run of this game. I did it on a live stream a couple of weeks ago. It took me about 3 hours to do one run of it, and I got one of this game's 34 endings. Yes, 34. So you could replay this quite a bit if you wanted to. I'm going to talk about that run a little bit later, but what we're going to do is we're going to start a new game, and I'm going to take you through just the first area so as not to spoil too much. So but that will still allow me to show you kind of what the core gameplay of this really is like. So you can do a standard run, or once you've beaten it once, you can do a custom run. And this is a little interesting because if you want to get all the 34 endings but not play it 34 times, this is kind of what you need to do, because it'll allow you to pick your starting zone as well as different starting traits for your party. So it really kind of makes it a little easier to do that, but you got to get through it once to be able to do that. So I'm going to start this off, and I'll start it with the tutorial so that you can get an idea what's going on here. So as you can see, this game is all in grayscale except for a couple of very specific elements, and that's because it's a post-apocalyptic story, as if it didn't look obvious from that. They don't really go into what caused the post-apocalypse, but the world is covered in ash and it's very cold, so it can give, you can speculate pretty well. And this is one of those stories where you are a group of people who has left sort of your home area, which is sort of like this geodesic dome type structure that is falling apart, and where the survival of your pocket of humanity is not necessarily guaranteed. And you're aiming to get to a new place, which, I kid you not, as you can see there, is called the Dome of Domes. Maybe not the most ideal branding in the world. But you're trying to get you're trying to save your pocket of humanity by getting them to this supposedly idyllic place. And you are a group of scouts that has been sent out to try to find it, to basically say, okay, we found it, you guys should come or not. So you're a group of 4 people who have different traits and abilities that you can switch between. And along your way, you have to gather resources, and you're going to run into specific encounters with different elements of the world and different people within it. And you're going to have to make a few different choices on how you want to proceed and face the consequences of what those choices are. There is not a guaranteed right and wrong way to this. You can finish the game in a number of different ways, so there isn't necessarily one direct type of choice that you have to make if you want to see the ending. It's very open-ended. So, I'm just going to let you see this. Each of the different areas you go between has this little bit of narrative with these really neat sort of charcoal cutscene drawings. I think the art in this is actually really, really cool. I don't have a problem with the fact that it's grayscale. I think it suits things very well, and it's very well. Everything looks like pencil drawing, as you can see here, which I think is really neat. So this is the first area here. If you skip the tutorial, you don't have to go through this. But a lot of your segments are gonna be like this. You're gonna be walking forward throughout the area. At certain points in these areas, the game will pause because an encounter will happen and you'll have to choose something. I believe these encounters are largely pre-scripted, so you're gonna run into a lot of the same ones each time. You do have some core resources for your group, which is firewood, food, medical supplies, and something else that I'm now totally forgetting, derp. But as you go along, you'll see there's places in the world where you can harvest resources. Doing this increases the fatigue of your party members. You can switch around the party member that you want to be utilizing for a certain task very simply just by clicking the right mouse button, and that will sort of that will change who's doing a particular action. You want to do that to make sure that you don't run anybody too heavily fatigued. So that we're just looking at some things within the environment here. So you can see some of these things coming along here. So in each of the areas, you're going to want to find this sort of radio tower device, which allows you to communicate with the home base to get some more information and also find out what your next objective is. So here we go. Pathfinder's information was correct. One of the beacons that will help guide them to the Dome of Domes. I still find that so funny to say. So there's no voice acting in this. Everything is done through text, as you can see. Somewhat minimalist aesthetic. The one thing that's a little bit of a bummer is I really wish you could buy the soundtrack for this game. It doesn't look like you can right now, but the soundtrack of this is really, really fantastic. Really helps boost the eerie feel. So here you go. So basically the operator's saying, congratulations, you've reached the first beacon, now you must decide your strategy. And you see you have 4 different people here, and the idea is that they each have specific traits. So one is kind of the brains, if you will, the other one is the brawn, one is the diplomat, and the other one is sort of stealth focused. So you will always have choices to make that will be based on each of these characters, assuming that you have all your characters when you have to make a decision, because you can finish the game losing up to 3 characters. When the 3rd character is dead, it's game over. But you can lose up to 2 more. And obviously, if you lose those, you will lose their associated traits and the choices therein that you can make. So we just picked that one there. With the next wave, the Citadel will collapse. Our hopes lie with you, Scouts. May victory be ours. So there you go. Now, as you are going to be walking forward in the world, at any time, you can choose to camp. And you want to do this very strategically. So, at any time, you just hit the button to set up camp. And here we are. So, this is what you have. So you have to use a certain number of combustibles or wood to start your fire. The more you use, the bigger a fire you'll build. But so you want to make sure you don't use too much of it. But the more fire you have, the lesser chance you have of random things threatening you and causing you harm while you're camped out, and the longer you can stay camped as well. So you see you also have food and you have medical supplies as well. So Callie's a little bit hungry, so we're going to give her a ration. See, it's all very drag and drop. You know, the interface is fairly straightforward here. So, and then Sin needs some medication. There we go. Now, after you hand out your resources to everybody, you can do this thing where you schedule their tasks. Now, this is the thing that you have to distribute you have to distribute these in a strategic way as well. So if characters are tired, you can see here they all have different meters down here. One is hunger, one is warmth, and the other is energy. So someone who's out of energy, they need to rest, obviously. Characters also have motivation, if you will, or sanity, I suppose. And if their motivation gets too low, then they're going to become a drag on the group, or potentially worse. So there are a number of different ways you can boost this in the world, but you can one of the ways is by having them talk to each other when camping, and this is a way that they will sort of, help boost each other's spirits a little bit. So, and you can also have somebody go out and explore the world, which means that they could come back with additional resources, or they could come back with nothing. And then you can also have people guard if you want, which lowers the potential threat to the rest of the party. But guarding them will cause them to obviously consume food and energy. So you need to balance all these things to try to make sure everybody's needs are met as best you can. But you can't always do that because this is a post-apocalypse world, and sometimes people just got to suck it up, So you put that through, people will have a little bit of conversation. So they also talk about a pyroclastic flow here, and there is a level that has sort of a volcano in it. So The implication early on is that that a nuclear war is what destroyed the world, but it's possible it was a super volcano as well. Like I said, they never really say, so it kind of leaves you to think about it and ponder for yourself and sort of make your own lore, if you will. So there we go. So Sin returned from exploration, brought some firewood and a medical supply. That's actually very interesting. The run of this that I did on my stream, right up until the end, I had a nightmare of a time finding medical supplies. It was kind of weird. So here we go. So the lookout post, sometimes you'll have a random event like this happen. It's almost a little Oregon Trail-y in some ways. So, and you see, by doing one of these periods of time, you diminish the campfire. You can keep stoking the campfire if you want, but the longer you stay in one place, the higher your damage meter will, or your danger meter will increase, I should say. And you don't want to use up all your firewood either, because as you walk forward, characters will get more tired and more hungry, and you're going to need to make camp eventually. The other thing is, as well, is you will see here that in the inventory, you've got this space, but then you've got these sort of grayer boxes over here. Yeah, everybody's favorite mechanic is here, over encumbrance. So your characters can fill up these spaces, but because of that, they will be more tired and thus burn a lot more energy to walk forward. So you have to be mindful of that as well in terms of managing their energy. So if you want to switch a character as you go to pick up different things, it's simply a matter of clicking the right button, and as you can see, it will tell you with the little arrow here which one you're on. When you want to go and pick up things in the world and go scavenging for objects, you really want to make sure that the person with the most energy is the person doing that if possible. If you focus on just one person all the time, you're going to tire them out, and then that's going to drag everything else down. So again, resource management, really, really key here. But we're just going to walk forward here, and I have it on good authority that something will happen here. You'll usually know that something's coming when the camera does an interesting shift like that. The camera is not manual control, it's all auto. Here we go. So through the mist, the squad members spy the silhouette of a wolf. The scrawny beast bares its fangs, growls, and moves to attack. So we can try to frighten it, we can run, we can attack it head on, or we can spend some combustibles to light a fire to scare it away. Now that'll cost 2, we only have 3. Probably not the best idea in the world, because we're gonna need to rest later. So you know what, let's just go fortune favors the bold. There we go, we took it out. Despite its weak and starving state, the wolf puts up an honorable fight, gnawing Sin in the leg. The members of the squad dissect the carcass for rations. So Sin took some damage, but we found some food. Now here's the thing with this. These encounters will always play out the same way as far as I know. So example, I have done that move before where you attack the wolf. And when I did it before, the exact same thing happened. The same character took the same amount of damage, and the party got the same amount of rations out of it. There doesn't seem to be much, if any, RNG in this game. Now, some people might actually like that, others are not. If you're a person who really likes survival games that have a lot of tension in them, even when I'm talking about old school survival games like Oregon Trail, for example, the RNG is what created a lot of the tension in those games, the randomness, the fact that you didn't always know what was going to happen every time. This game is quite a bit more formulaic in that the choices that you make, if you make the same choice twice, you're going to get the same result. So that might be a turnoff for some people, but again, some people may actually appreciate that. So here we go. We came across a campfire. There's a hooded figure here. Let's approach in peace because he looks non-threatening. Greets them with a smile. Callie enters into a conversation with him, and the savage invites them to sit and eat. So let's do that. Again, I did this once before, and the same thing happened. And here's the thing, and I'm not going to spoil anything by doing this, but this was my chief complaint with the game. The one run that I did on my live stream, I had never played the game before. And all I did was I made the choices that were largely based on my own moral code. I tried to be as good as I could. I tried to be as friendly as I could. I tried not to pick fights or kill anything when I didn't have to. See, this was a really good choice. We completely rested, we totally warmed up, and we totally got fed too. So this was basically an epic win here, with the exception that the guy didn't have any medical stuff. When I did that run, I just tried to make what I thought was the good choices. I got all the way to the end in my first run. I didn't lose any party members. And aside from one poor choice I made at the end that kind of got me a weak ending, everything went pretty well. I was rarely hard up for resources, so here's another place where we have two different paths you can take. Now, I have done both of these paths and I know what happens here. So let's go this way. But when we got to the end, what my chat and I were discussing is they were like, is it me or was that really easy? And that was the thing. I got what I would call not a bad ending, but a middling ending. But I think if I had just made one choice different at the end, I would have got a good ending. And yeah, I didn't lose any squad members, and I was rarely having to make really difficult choices with regards to resources. There wasn't a lot of misery in this misery simulator at that point. And I was kind of like, well, okay. I'm like, that's a little interesting. I expected it to be harder than that. You know, when I played games like more well-known misery simulators like Papers, Please or this War of Mine, you know, those games, even if I managed to get to the end in them, to either of them, which I only did with Papers, Please, I never did with this War of Mine, the choices you had to make along the way were brutal, and a lot of sacrifices had to be made. You would lose a lot of people. You would lose a lot of resources. You would have situations come up where you legit felt bad. And that never really happened in my run of this. And it wasn't that I wasn't min-maxing it. Like, I wasn't reading walkthroughs. I wasn't doing anything to try to get to the end of things. And to really try to see the end that night. I was just making the choices that I would have naturally made in my first run of the game. So, what does that say? Well, either I got very lucky, which is possible, or this game, unfortunately, if you really want to have the challenging experience, you might have to purposely make not difficult choices, but less strategic choices. You might have to make some choices that you probably wouldn't make on your own and that legitimately don't seem like the smart way to go. Because let's see here. I want to see what I can do here with the big wolf. Let's go, let's be bold again. Oh. Okay, we took it out. But everybody got hurt. Ouch. And we lost a lot of morale. Ooh. This was not the choice I made during my stream run. That was probably not advantageous. But we found a whole whack of food. We got some prime steaks from that wolf. Yes, we did. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, I think if you want to experience the true misery simulator element of this game, you might have to purposely find... You might purposely have to drive yourself towards that. And that's a little disappointing in the sense that, you know, that's what these games are supposed to be, is about the hard choices and the hard decisions, and I didn't find I was really forced to make any in my first run of the game. Again, your experience may differ. Maybe I just happened to make the choices that worked out. You know, maybe you'll choose to play the game in a different style. Maybe your own personal morality is different. Or maybe you like to play games like this with a purposely contradictory morality. You know, some players are like that. They don't like to make choices based on what they would do. They want to do the opposite. They want to be like, I'm a good person, but I'm going to play as evil because I want to see what happens there. And that may very well change your experience. And that's why I really want to make that point strong about that, because there is a lot that I think is cool about Ashwalkers. I really love the art style. I really love the soundscape. I really love the concept. And where the story goes by the end is actually quite interesting. And the game will put you in some scenarios that are very interesting and very, you know, do have some unique choices to them. But at the same time, every run is the same. The levels are not randomly generated. The levels are always the same. You're going to run into the same people. And at the end of the day, the choices don't change either because there's no randomness. You're going to make a choice and you're going to get the same result every single time. So if you play this enough, you're going to know eventually how to make the perfect run. And again, that may be okay for you. You know what? I think we'll camp here again real quick. That may be okay for you. That may be the type of experience you want. You may not like the randomness. You may not enjoy the elements of having to be dependent on the gods of RNG, if you will, to have a good run. And if that's the case, I think you'll like this quite a bit. And I think it does offer a very interesting story. For the price, I would say that one run, you might find enough value in it with that, but I would expect, if you want to get the real sort of full breadth of what this game offers, that you're going to want to do multiple runs of it for sure. You're going to want to see the different endings, and you're going to want to try to play it with different sets of morality. You're going to want to try to play it one way one time and then focus on a different way the other time. I think that's really how you're going to get the proper experience out of it. It's clear the developers had a very particular vision they wanted to follow with this. You know, they didn't want RNG. They wanted it to be something where you will purposely, the focus of the player with this is going to be to make different choices, to experience the different endings, and to figure out the optimal path. They want you to have that experience, and they want everybody to be able to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just, I found that in my initial run of this, the game didn't make the choices very difficult, and I didn't really have to work for my good ending. And in a title like this, that's kind of what you want to do. You want to have to work for your good ending. You want to have to put in the time and the effort to really feel like you've accomplished something when you've gotten to the good ending, and you've really done, you've really accomplished your end goal. And when I got to the end of it, I was like, that was cool, but it didn't really feel that I'd accomplished that much, if you know what I mean. Like, it didn't feel, like I said, it didn't feel like I had to work for it. And that part was a little bit disappointing to me. So you have the challenge here. I happen to know something you do. Let's do something a little different. I've never refused the challenge, so let's see what happens. Oh, well, and they're getting ready to attack. Oh, this isn't going to go well. So you can try to hide, or you can confront them. Let's see what happens if we try to disappear. Didn't really look like they were running there, but okay. Let us flee! I don't know. That's kind of amusing to me. I think I may have totally hosed myself here. Oh wow, we can either burn the mansion down or disappear inside a tunnel. This is very different than anything I've done before, but this is again because I chose this path. Like, I chose what I actually knew was not the ideal way to do this. So this is interesting. This is actually a new area. I haven't been here before. So we actually did get a little bit of a different area here by choosing to go down here. So that's kind of neat. Oh, interesting. So they've captured some wolves down here. Let's just go for it. Why not? Let's free the wolves and see what happens. Nice. Direct the wolves at the savages. Here, boy. Here, boy. Go kill the savages. Go kill the savages. Yeah, there we go. Go kill the savages. Well, that's funny. Okay. This is quite a bit different than I had happen before, so that's pretty neat. But, So yeah, you're kind of getting the idea here. This is basically the way the game goes, and so we finished the first section here. So there's several different sections like this that will take you into very different environments that also have different environmental conditions and very different kinds of encounters that you're going to deal with, which is actually pretty interesting. But the core gameplay is like this right up until the end. And that's basically it. I did enjoy my time with this. It just really didn't feel that difficult, and it didn't feel like the choices were that hard. And in a game like this, I really expected more of a moral dilemma and more, I got a couple of achievements there. I expected a bit more, I expected my choices to have more consequences than they did. I really expected a game where making what felt like the good decision would not always be the good decision. See, it does change these statistics as well about your party and their stats, which can impact how some things go later. But this is the thing: is I just didn't feel like there was the choices were that difficult, and that's really the point of these games to me. And by the end of it, I was just like, wow, you didn't really make it that hard on me. So if you wanna see everything that can happen in this, you're gonna have to work for it a little bit harder than I think you might expect. If you just try to be a moral person, the game seems like it's gonna reward you for that. And I just don't think that's really the best example of what this genre can offer compared to something like This War of Mine or even Papers, Please. And I think they maybe missed the mark a little bit there. But the thing is, because everybody plays these things a little bit differently, that's why I really wanted to showcase this, because I do still think it's cool, and your experience very well may differ from mine. And, you know, if you like this kind of genre, or you just look at this game and you think it's interesting, I do recommend that you give it a try, because I think there could be something interesting here, and that I really don't want to draw my final conclusion on a game like this specifically based on my experience, because it's purposely designed for everybody to have a different experience. So yeah, that is Ashwalkers: A Survival Journey. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do hope you found this interesting, and can maybe give you a little bit more of an insight into whether or not this is something that you want to try. If you did like what you saw here, please do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, click the bell, all that jazz. Tell other people about it. That helps the channel get noticed by more people, and I would appreciate that very much. And drop a comment down below for sure. Let me know in the comments, you know, do you like this kind of game? Do you have other recommendations beyond the ones that I cited in here? Does this look interesting to you? Have you played this and done other runs and had very different experiences than I did? What was your first run like? I would really love to know, so leave a comment down below and tell me what that was like. That could be very cool. And of course, if you want to see streams of games like this and all other kinds of things, you can drop me a follow over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction. We got all kinds of interesting things that happen over on that side. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you on the next episode of Indie Showcase. You folks have yourselves a good one. Take it easy, folks.